So it started a bit like this. I like drawing. Oh, these crayons are pretty cool. That artist is pretty cool. I want to be like them. Those brushes that they use are pretty cool. I guess I need them to do the same thing. What's that tablet they're using? Do I need an Apple Pencil? How did they draw that? What if I make a mistake? What brush is that? What brush is that? What brush is that? Stop. Just chillax, man. Just calm down and roll it back to I like drawing, because that's all that really matters, and that's all that really means anything in the end. I tend to think that art can be pretty difficult, but it's not that complicated. At the end, it's just you trying to express yourself through drawing or painting or sculpting or whatever you call art, right? And here are some hurdles that I faced that, complicated things that maybe you face as well. But I'm gonna try and help you so that you can get back on track. Where's my glove? It's my glove. Where is my... Oh, it's here. So I know a lot of people like to recite, you need to know the rules in order to break them, right? And while that's true, it personally gave me a lot of anxiety about learning the rules in the first place, because there are so many. In fact, there are an infinite amount of rules that you could apply to art. There are rules about lighting, about anatomy, about composition, about position, about everything. And so I just want to say that the rules can be learned whenever. Let's say we have A to B, and the rules go from A to B, right? These are the rules. But what I'm trying to say is that, what if you don't know the rules? What if you don't know this, and you decide to kind of go on an adventure by yourself, and you go a bit like this, right? And do you see anything wrong with that? It's just a really particularly fun little squiggly line. This is your own epic adventure. And once you finish your own epic adventure and you arrive at B, at that point, you'll learn about these rules. And you'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe there was an entirely different and more efficient way to do that. That's pretty cool. And personally, I don't see anything wrong with either of those. The only thing is that these are taught in art school, on the internet and whatever, and this you learn by yourself. And if learning in school is your method of learning, then go for that. It's efficient, it's straightforward, easy. But if you learn by yourself, that's amazing. It's like you invented the rules by yourself. You just discovered them. You're like the Isaac Newton of art, You've just done it by yourself. And I think that's pretty amazing. What I'm trying to say in the end is there's no need to be so desperate to learn the art so efficiently and effectively according to the rules, because I'm willing to bet that's not why you started art in the first place. You're allowed to go on a little squiggly adventure, because if you're like me, then chances are you find this thing a little more fun to look at than this. And as a result of this, right, you're at B, and then you learn the rules. So what you end up is like something like this. So on the way there, you squiggled a lot and wriggled a lot, and you didn't really know what you were doing. But now you've just done the whole process of figuring out why it's done like that. Because rules are there to be helpful to you, not to make things more difficult, right? So now you've just figured out why the rule is there. And then you work backwards. You break down the rule by itself. If I put this into a really logical perspective, let's say that we're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube, right? I didn't really need to draw that, but I wanted to. And A to B is just looking online and learning how to solve the Rubik's Cube, yeah? That's this one, just following the rules. This one is figuring out for yourself, trialing and erroring a bunch of different algorithms, and eventually, it could take weeks, months, years, centuries, millennia, I don't know, figuring out for yourself how to fix the Rubik's Cube. And by the time you've succeeded, you figured out this part, how to get there most efficiently anyway, and then you arrive at this one, where you've trialed and errored so much that now you realize, oh, that's why those rules exist in the first place. And now you understand them better than anyone else on the planet. I didn't really mean to make that so logical, but there you go. It's essentially like me with anything, really. I'll just do something, and then later on I'll find out there's a name for it, and then I'm like, oh. Anyway, alright, next, I would rather you overdo everything than underdo everything. Another thing about rules that I don't particularly like is that they make you really wary of the limits. So let's say that there's some sort of rule and you're trying to not break the rule, right? So you really like cautiously like go up to about here. But to be honest, for things like rules, it's easier to overdo it and then bring it back in rather than just ever so slightly get closer and closer to the rule but not break it. It's easier to go all the way up here and then bring it back down. Do you know what I mean? Let's say you're trying to draw a pose or like the side view of a dude, and the rule says that the center of gravity goes through the center of the body, right? So that's why you drew him like that in a straight line, so he's not like leaning the Leaning Tower of Pisa or anything. And you're like, how much can I play around with this rule? But I don't want to break it, so I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna make him, you know, thrust his hips a bit forward so it looks more interesting, right? And the center of gravity is still in the middle, so he's still not leaning or anything. But how many times are you gonna draw that until you think, man, this guy can't thrust his hips any more forward? It's easier, right, to just make it super clear, like just overdo it from the start. Make him super thrusting his hips forward. I mean, in reality, there's nobody who quite has a spine like that, right? But you're just doing it for the sake of overdoing it, making a point. And there's actually a name for it, which is exaggeration of anatomy, which artists do all the time. So if you're trying to learn a rule and then break it, it's just easier to break it first and then learn the rule, rather than learn the rule and then try not to break it, but just go to the limit. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Alright, next. I want you to remember that software is a tool and not something to make your life more difficult. When I first started learning digital art, when I transferred from traditional, I just kind of looked at all these things like at the top and at the sides and stuff, and I was like, no, there's too much. How am I going to use all of this? But in reality, you don't have to. They just say if you need to use them. How many different ways are there to fill in this circle? Well, first I could get the bucket tool, fill it in like that. Next I could get the wand tool, take the brush, and then fill it in like that. Let's choose a better brush. Or we could take the ellipses tool and then make a circle in that color anyway. So that was just like 3 different ways of coloring in that circle, and I'm just here to say that you don't have to use all of them, just pick and choose what makes you comfortable. Don't overcomplicate it for yourself. I did, and it's terrible. Okay, for all you artists out there who pressure themselves too much, if I have this right, then artists are pretty fragile beings with fragile hearts, and we shatter pretty easily on the inside. And I just want you to turn your thinking around sometimes and not just don't listen to society if society is telling you what doesn't suit you. You know the saying, oh, pressure makes a diamond. You need to learn some harsh words in order to grow and develop and become a diamond. In fact, the complete opposite was true for me. Whenever I heard pretty harsh feedback or someone said my art was ugly, I just didn't want to do it at all. I would just leave it alone. But on the other hand, compliments and praise and gentle criticism made me more motivated. So no matter what stage of drawing you're at the moment, just if you need that praise to keep drawing, then find a support group or a little artist club, you know, one of those cute little clubs, or some friends, and draw together. And if you grow off harsh feedback and criticism, great, that's wonderful, I wish I did. But if you grow and develop off praise and compliments, then go and find friends who will do that for you, because that's wholesome and really cute, and I feel like we need more of that. Alright, next point to art is not that complicated. Simplify everything. Poses are just a head, limbs, and a spine. You want to make it a little more elegant? Okay. It's now an S-shaped spine. The arms are now curved, and the legs are now curved too. Also feet. You want to do some lighting? Okay. Take this potato. Just decide on where the lighting has come from. It's that way. So this part is light, so this part is light, and this part is dark. Oh, but also, if this is a surface, then some reflection will be bouncing off of that. So actually this part is also pretty light. Hands are just thumbs with a blob. Colors, well, if it's warm, then it's probably orange, and if it's cool, it's probably blue, and that's all you need. If it's warmer than orange, it'll go to red, and if it's cooler than blue, it'll be a different color. Nah, but for real, orange and blue, you can't go wrong with that color combination, so use that however you will. Feet are just a triangle and a heel. Yeah, I can't draw feet too. When you're drawing something, my advice to you is always include an element, just some element, of drawing that is within your comfort zone and that you like drawing. Because here in this one, I drew this like many years ago, and I basically didn't really like much about the illustration apart from the galaxy in the background. Like, the girl looks a bit weird because I didn't know how to shade. The tree does not look like a tree, it looks like it's made of hair, because I didn't know how to draw trees either. And I really only liked the background. But because of the background, I liked the illustration as a whole, and it was not in vain. So my advice is choose something that you know you're pretty good at, and just kind of shove it in subtly to most illustrations you have, and then you will love them like the little babies they are. Because your illustrations are your babies, okay? You made them, you gave birth to them, they're here because of you. Maybe some of them will be a bit ugly, some of them will be pretty, but they're all yours in the end. Alright, let's say that there's like a particular drawing that you kind of don't really like. I used to draw fairies quite a lot, and because of that, when I go back and look at my old sketchbooks, there's a bunch of ugly looking fairies, right? But what I used to do is I used to take the old drawing and then redraw it, and then make them reference the old drawing. I'll show you what I mean. So I mean something like this, right? I used to have these really old drawings, and then I would draw them again a few months or a few years later, draw the same character, and then she'd say something like, "That was me? I looked awful." And then I'd be like, "Yeah, I know, but you're pretty now." And I think it's just a fun way to show progress and like look back on your mistakes and laugh at them. And it's just kind of a wholesome way to connect with your characters too. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say for now. I just wanted to remind everyone that art is not that complicated, never has been, never will. And I feel like a lot of things nowadays just feel a bit intent on complicating them. But in the end, it really just boils down to, I like doing this. Yay. Okay, bye.